The Old Republic, a time when Jedi and Sith reached their apex of power in their ultimate struggle for victory. It was a time when the Force was absolutely electric, and the galaxy was alight with the fire of war. It's very different from the time of the Clone Wars, where whence many of our greatest heroes arise, and because of that, it's fascinating to explore a scenario of those heroes being transplanted into the time period of the Old Republic. We've done Grievous, we've done Lord Vader, and now, by popular demand, we bring you What If Anakin Skywalker was transported to the Old Republic era? These videos are deeply inspired from the passion that you guys bring to our comments, and we're excited to see what you think of this one. But for those of you who are watching and haven't yet subscribed, we're experimenting with many new and different video formats, so if you want to be up to date on everything we post and participate in what we upload, be sure to crush that subscribe button and join our archives today. It is your destiny. In our previous scenarios, we've taken villains and thrown them back to see how well they would do in an environment of empowered Jedi. But this is the first time we've taken a hero and seen what he could do in a galaxy dominated by the Sith. We wanted to give Skywalker a lot of room to experience the true essence of being a Jedi in this era, and for that reason, we are going to place him in the year 3660 BBY. For context, this is the height of the Great Galactic War. It's within the last third of the 30 Years' War that began when Malgus and Vindicant took back Korriban in 3681 BBY. The state of the war is this. The Sith Empire has gained a tremendous amount of ground, now having consumed nearly half of the galactic disk. The Empire then revived the Mandalorian clans, putting their own puppet figure in the position of Mandalore. After the Mandalorians have blockaded a crucial supply hyperlane known as the Hydean Way, the Republic has enlisted the help of smugglers to break that blockade, allowing them to rebuff an attack on Ord Radama, led by Malgus. Of course, that was largely due to the political games of the Dark Council, who hindered Malgus' supply chain. The Republic then struck back, making several bold offensive moves. They made a feint on Korriban just to turn around and lay siege to Zyos, the capital of the ancient Sith Empire. The Republic were hoping to gain a foothold in order to launch an attack on the current capital, Dromund Kaas. It took several months, but the Sith Empire were able to repel them. However, Malgus was infuriated that the Republic had managed to dive so deeply into Sith territory. After assuring that he wouldn't have any more issues from the Dark Council, Malgus began a 7-year campaign which would win the war. It began in 3660 with the Battle of Sereno and ended in 3653 with the sacking of Coruscant, which officially ends the First War. This little history lesson is important for the context of this video. In other scenarios, Grievous and Vader just sort of did their own thing, but Anakin will be participating in several major historical events this time around, so we needed to lay out exactly what's going on. Now, as for Anakin himself, we're going to take him at his peak in the year 19 BBY. Being more specific, let's say we pluck him out of this era right as he finishes saving Coruscant from Grievous in Revenge of the Sith. As per usual, the how he gets thrown back isn't very important for our video. Maybe he found some forbidden artifact deep within the Jedi archives, or maybe this entire excursion is an extremely detailed dream he has in the Force. Either way, Anakin has been transported back to the year 3660 BBY, placing him at the beginning of Malgus' final campaign. Now, let's see what Skywalker can do. The machinery looks archaic in his eyes, the buildings aren't as tall, and many of them are entirely different styles. Still disoriented, Skywalker will try to find a Republic bureau and ask about the ongoings of the war. The response confuses him, as a random civilian talks openly about the Sith, as if they're a known fact, not a rumor like the Clone Wars. Anakin attempts to find Padme's apartment suite, only to discover that it doesn't exist yet. The penthouse won't be built for several thousand more years. Eventually it dawns on him that he has somehow been transported back in time. Right now in his mind, his only goal is to get back to the time and place of Padme. Little else matters to Skywalker, and if that means that fighting in a war that is not his own, then he will do it in a heartbeat. No Sith Empire is keeping him from his wife and his unborn child. In our eyes, Anakin likely keeps his time travel to himself, only confiding that he's from the future in a select few friends that he will make along the way. One of these friends is going to be Satele Shan. Not only does this suit our own purposes, but we also think the two of them would get along quite well. Satele during this time was not Grand Master yet, and was still working on how to be more diplomatic. Satele is younger, more battle-minded, and has no tolerance whatsoever for Sith. She was a frontline warrior, and had been trained by the battle master Cal Senderek. Anakin and Satele have a lot in common, and would likely see eye to eye on many things. Satele likely notices him immediately. He sticks out like a sore thumb. The style of his robes aren't really the fashion for the Jedi Knights of this era. Plus, he's not wearing that much armor, something that was customary for Guardians of this time. After talking for a bit and getting to know her, Anakin would recognize her. Anakin is not a scholar, but he did find history studies enriching, so he likely only has the more basic knowledge about this war and this time period. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt though, and say that he would remember the major galactic events. He would also remember things that interest him, such as ships and technology of the era. When it comes to historical figures like Satele Shan though, maybe he wouldn't immediately remember her as Grand Master, but her name would ring a bell, enough for him to confide in her about his true identity. Satele takes comfort in the fact that if he's here, that means the Jedi Order is still alive in the future, which likely means that they can still win this war. She doesn't ask him for details, however, being wise enough to know that having certain knowledge of the future is dangerous. Satele may test him in a quick sparring match, just to see if he's battle ready. She wants to keep him close, but if that's the case, then he's going to be with her on the front lines. We believe they have a quick duel, and Anakin is certainly impressive, but he is ultimately humbled. In his era, Anakin is the most talented and formidable Jedi in the entire Order, and certainly one of its finest duelists. He often trained to fight other saber wielders after his failure against Dooku on Geonosis. This places Anakin in a very different category than other Jedi from his time, who typically only practiced blast deflection. But in the Old Republic, Anakin finds himself surrounded by Jedi who take the craft of combat very seriously. They fight Sith on a regular basis. Most of them anticipate blade-to-blade combat more frequently. In this day, droids and soldiers are more fodder in their path to their true enemy. Anakin is in good company with other warriors. He's not the best of the best anymore. As he stands now, he's extremely talented, but he's in an era where dueling is common. In this era, to be a proficient duelist is a requirement, not an accolade. One other important thing to note about Anakin is his issues with holding back. We all know that technically he's an extremely powerful Jedi, one of the greatest the galaxy has ever known. However, because he was constantly worried about the High Council and disappointing Obi-Wan, his internal shame kept him from using his true power. Anakin is always holding back, constantly taught nothing but restraint. He was prideful about his accomplishments and natural talent, but he was taught to be ashamed of letting those things shine. This is why he only seems to show his true skill and power when he's angry or under pressure. And here in the Old Republic, for the first little while, Anakin will actually be behind everyone else. In his day, he's had difficulty properly defeating even Ventress one-on-one. On the open battlefield, he will struggle to defeat even the standard Sith warriors, and will need help if he's ever swamped by more than one. Having said that though, this fact does not last long at all. Watching others surpass him will inspire Anakin's natural competitive side. This will anger him, make him feel insignificant, pushing him to improve. To strive for physical improvement is actually rewarded and encouraged in this era of Jedi. He and Satele will continue to spar in their spare time as well. Satele, who knows the Sith best, will duel Anakin as one of them in order to get him used to the brutality of the battlefield dueling. And she will be shocked to see just how quickly Anakin adapts. As he continues to fight and live alongside this old Jedi Order, he will find out how very different they are. The reforms that made the Order into what Anakin grew up into wouldn't happen for another 2.5 millennia. These Jedi hold true to their ideals, but they apply them practically instead of sitting back preaching platitudes. Anakin would be deeply appreciative of this version of the Jedi, as they fall more in line with what he imagined they would be when he was a child. They line up with what Anakin always wanted to be, a fierce protector that will do whatever is necessary to ensure peace. Anakin will adopt their armor, their ways of using cybernetic enhancements as well. They often wore boots with specific cushioning to help not worry about fall damage when jumping from greater heights. The Jedi had no qualms about using combat drugs as well, like adrenals, to increase their performance whenever necessary. We think Anakin appreciates his own power too much to use the adrenals though, but he grows a deep fondness of his fellow Jedi Guardians, who are ready just to let loose in battle. The Old Republic Jedi were known for altering their lightsabers with new grips, mods, and enhancements to make their blades stronger and deadlier. True weapons of war. Anakin, who is known for adopting useful technology, would 100% adapt his own weapon to fit this era as well. With how fast he learns and improves, it won't take more than a few months to start advancing rapidly. In his day, he was already well beyond what most Jedi could achieve. But in the Old Republic, with new challenges beyond what he ever faced in the Clone Wars, Anakin will be back in the upper echelons rapidly. Soon enough, Satele Shan herself will feel comfortable enough to let him lead his own battalion, especially since Anakin begins insisting on it. During their battles, he's always had many strange but effective strategies that won them the day. While Satele wonders if he's using his own knowledge or the future to aid them, Anakin truthfully didn't really study any of these battles, and is only using his own experience. He will slot in nicely among the other Jedi generals, because Anakin genuinely was one. He wasn't pretending in the Clone Wars era. His experience commanding the 501st will be fully transferable to the Republic troopers, who despite not being clones, work just as hard to be battlefield machines. Of course, their armor is similar enough to where Anakin still feels he's one of them. And this is where we introduce Skywalker to Havoc Squad. Havoc Squad was an elite special forces unit directed by Jace Malcolm. Unbeknownst to Anakin until much later, Satele and Jace are lovers, which is why they're able to work together so well. But Havoc Squad is going to be where Anakin finds his people. The name of their squad was originally given to them as an insult. Earlier in the war, they were a special forces unit that would often lead raids into enemy territory without knowledge or approval from Republic command. They succeeded in spreading chaos in the Imperial ranks, and kept them off kilter. But after a single unauthorized stunt too many, Malcolm and the rest of Havoc Squad were transferred to Alderaan, far from the front lines of the war. There they were tasked with training rookies and recuperating injured soldiers. But as it turns out, Darth Malgus invaded Alderaan, and its only defenders were Havoc Squad and their recovering troops. For weeks, the ragtag group led guerrilla warfare against Imperial forces, holding out until Satele was able to arrive with Republic reinforcements. In the aftermath of the battle, Havoc Squad were hailed as heroes, going on many more classified operations throughout the remainder of the war, and their unconventional and often rebellious tactics never changed. They had a thirst for battle and a loyalty to the Republic, a combo that created a chaotic but incredibly useful group of soldiers. So Anakin and Havoc Squad are a match made in heaven. Havoc Squad quickly take to their new Jedi commander, who is not afraid to get his own hands dirty, breaking rules to ensure victory. Anakin participates in the Battle of Renvar, which was one of the most important victories in the First War. There, on the snowy world, Darth Malgus has built a fortress of evil. Darth Malgus is one of the most terrifying members of the Sith High Council, who is the head of the Sphere of Technologies. She is the Dark Lady who designed and constructed most of the Empire's superweapons, an architect of death itself. Her fortress world of Renvar was where she carried out many of her most horrific experiments. But in order to counter her madness, a massive Republic fleet and invasion force quickly arrived to liberate the planet from her control. Leading the battle was of course Satele Shan and Jarek Kaden, who did the majority of the fighting. Sio Bakarn was a talented healer, so he stayed behind as medical support. Bela Kawix served as the tactical expert of the group. All four were future members of the new High Council, but Skywalker is among them this time. But rather than be a frontline support with Satele and Kaden, he takes Havoc Squad for a flanking maneuver. In the original timeline, Republic forces had to brutally push their way in towards the fortress, while Malgus pelted them with bioweapons and superweapons of her own making, making the Republic take heavy casualties, but ultimately eked out a victory when Satele confronted Malgus and mortally wounded her in a duel. However, this time, Anakin becomes enraged by the suffering caused by Malgus' bioweapons, so rather than stick to the plan to flank her armies, Anakin takes Havoc Squad behind enemy lines and straight to the fortress. He penetrates the defenses and engages Darth Malgus himself. The evil Sith Lord is powerful, but not nearly strong enough to overcome Skywalker. However, refusing to admit defeat, quickly activates the Chaos Sphere and Necro Swarm colony, these two experimental bioweapons she used in the Battle of Renvar. Unfortunately, the comic in which they're mentioned doesn't detail what they are, but they were responsible for the bulk of the Republic's casualties. Anakin, who senses the danger of what she has unleashed, gives into his fury and strikes her down, killing the Sith Lord. The death of Darth Malgus here actually changes many significant future events. Whether he realizes it or not, Anakin just prevented the creation of 6 major superweapons. The Sunraiser, and all 5 of the weapons it created. Malgus originally did not die until many years into the future, when Satele's very son, Theron Shan, ends her life. But Anakin does here, preventing the creation of some of the Empire's worst atrocities. Once the battle is over, Satele is displeased that Skywalker killed her out of anger, but her objections are drowned out by the cheers of Havoc Squad and the rest of the Republic's forces. Anakin Skywalker is hailed as a hero, just as he was in the Clone Wars, and has officially gained a strong reputation. A reputation that makes its way all the way back to the Sith Empire and back to the ears of Darth Malgus. This Skywalker has just killed one of the Dark Council members. Darth Barris, who is the head of Imperial Intelligence, uses his spy network to gain as much information about Skywalker as possible, but the results surprise him. According to what they have found, Skywalker is an extremely powerful Jedi that just showed up out of nowhere. No Republic records about him or his family exist, and he seems somewhat set apart from the other Jedi. Barris takes his findings to the Emperor, now believing that this Jedi could be a threat to them. Darth Vitiate looks over the information in detail and quickly becomes alarmed. Based on his studies, all of what has been said about Anakin could point to him being the chosen one of Jedi prophecy. If that is true, then that makes Anakin both Vitiate's greatest threat and his greatest opportunity. He could potentially be the most powerful vessel Vitiate has ever possessed, now greatly wanting to see Skywalker for himself so that he may hollow him out and make him the new voice of the Emperor. He begins making plans of his own to draw Skywalker into his web, but allows the war to progress as usual. Back to the Jedi, Anakin finally starts to meet the executives of the Jedi Order, as well as a member of Yoda's species, Master Oteg. Anakin probably finds it funny that no matter where you go, some form of Yoda is always synonymous with the Jedi. But it's here where they drop the bombshell. After all of the fighting, the Sith Empire has called for a ceasefire. The Emperor wants to have peace negotiations on Alderaan. Alarms immediately blare in Anakin's mind. Again, he is no scholar, but the sacking of Coruscant was so prominent in history that even he would know of it. Anakin, being too impulsive and caring too much about innocent lives, would not consider the repercussions of drastically altering history. So he definitely attempts to warn the Jedi Council about these peace negotiations, telling them that it's a trap. However, because he doesn't want to reveal that he is from the future, they likely don't take the warning seriously. Many Jedi at the time had reservations about the Alderaan summit, and many warned Grandmaster Zim against it. But they were all ignored. The Republic and the Jedi were tired of fighting and wanted any out that they could get. So Anakin's cries would be no different. Once again, he confides in the only one who can do anything, Satele Shan. He ignores her not wanting to know about the future and tells her that the sacking of Coruscant is coming. He divulges all of the information that he could remember from the future. Satele, who already had misgivings about the peace summit, is incredibly distressed by this news. And so, without council approval, Satele organizes a defense force on Coruscant to be placed under Skywalker's command. She is going to follow what she originally did and go with Zim and her current master to the Alderaan summit. Since important Republic ambassadors were going to be there as well, Satele wanted to make sure that she could protect them. Plus, her master wanted her to go experience the negotiation. Anakin would send an anonymous transmission to Coruscant security that a Sith fleet was exiting hyperspace directly outside of Coruscant. But he would be well ahead of when they actually arrived. This caused Coruscant's defense and the Jedi Temple to jump into action. Unfortunately, one thing that Anakin does not know, because this minor detail was not recorded in history, was that the Mandalorian Shae Vizsla was the one who infiltrated Coruscant, and the one that takes down the defense grid. This is how the fleet managed to penetrate the capital city in the first place in the lore. But when the Sith arrive, they find that their path isn't as clear as they had hoped. While the ground-to-air defenses are down, the Republic has scrambled starfighters with Anakin at the helm. Malgus and the Sith transport still crashes into the Jedi Temple, and that battle still goes normally. But on the outside, the Sith bombers don't do nearly as much damage to the surface, as Anakin and his squadron make strafing defense runs to take them out. But the biggest change to this event is the assassination of the Chancellor. The Sith's victory and the death of the Supreme Chancellor is what gave the Empire leverage in the negotiations of Alderaan. But Skywalker dispatched Havoc Squad to secure Chancellor Baruchan's escape beforehand, so when Darth Angral arrives, there is no Chancellor to kill, rendering the mission a failure. However, the Jedi Temple is still on the verge of destruction, and Ven Zalo still dies at the blade of Malgus. After taking out several more Sith bombers, Anakin senses a disturbance in the Force, and he sees the temple imploding with Darth Malgus exiting. Swooping back to the temple, Anakin opens the canopy of his starfighter and leaps down below, dropping straight into the Sith Lord's path, lightsaber ignited. The long-awaited meeting has come at last. Malgus does not even have to guess who stands before him. Skywalker, I presume. Anakin responds, taunting him, revealing that the Chancellor is safe and that their attack has failed. Malgus, however, says that he wouldn't be too sure about that. It was always Malgus's prerogative that the Sith were there to destroy Coruscant, not hold it for ransom. This is something that Darth Angral neglected to mention to the Dark Lord. This information is the catalyst that later drove Malgus to defecting from the Sith Empire. So when Anakin mentions that the Chancellor is safe, that matters little to the Dark Lord, as his intention is to level the world, and that has not changed. His blade ignites at his side, and the two engage in a duel right there on the steps of the burning temple. Normally we'd probably say that Anakin would lose this duel, but this is a revenge of the Sith Anakin who has just spent the last 7 years in the crucible of the Old Republic. Darth Malgus will feel the wrath of the Chosen One. Anakin is wearing their armor. He's upgraded his lightsaber, and he's refined his dueling style to surpass even the greatest of the Jedi Guardians. He has tossed off the shackles that have kept him from using his real power. He has also learned new techniques from Satele, such as Advanced Tutaminis, an ability that allowed her to block a lightsaber with her bare hand. However, Darth Malgus is still an absolute beast, one that could contend with even Darth Vader's skill. It is a clash of titans, and in the beginning, they seem almost even. But soon enough, Skywalker begins to gain the upper hand as he drives Malgus back. The duel is close, but we believe that Skywalker triumphs, dismembering the Dark Lord, removing both of his hands the same as he did with Dooku. The Sith is at Skywalker's mercy, and despite being shocked at losing, Malgus feels Anakin's anger in the Force. He tells the Jedi that he's been wasted with the Republic. The Empire could impose order, stability. They could use someone like him among them. Anakin, though, has not been fully manipulated by Sidious in this era. He's also 7 years removed from the frustration of the Clone Wars High Council. He's been fighting alongside a Jedi Order he can actually believe in. And so, Skywalker's mind is not divided. He is rooted in the light. Malgus switches tactics, begins taunting him to give in to his feelings, to kill him as a triumphant warrior should. This does sound agreeable to Skywalker, as he raises his blade to deliver a final strike. However, he's stopped by Alima Daru, Malgus's love. Injured, she runs out of the temple and throws herself before Skywalker. This completely stops Anakin, and makes him question everything. He didn't know that the Sith could have lovers, and he remembers Padme. Having a moment of compassion, Skywalker decides to arrest Malgus. Under Skywalker's leadership, the Sith's attack is repelled, and they are driven off of Coruscant. He reaches out to Satele to let her know, and she turns the table on the Alderaan summit. She shows Anakin's provided images of the attack of Coruscant, and exposes the Sith for their lies. It's the Jedi that now have the upper hand in the negotiations. We believe the ceasefire still happens, but it's on the Jedi's terms this time. The Sith are the ones that have to cede several disputed worlds along the line, and they're forced to withdraw their forces from several other key planets as well. However, they make sure the Republic recognizes the Sith Empire as an official galactic superpower. In an effort to make sure they have some peace though, the Republic concedes at least that much. Now, rather than morale in the Jedi and the Republic being destroyed, it is preserved. The war ends with the Republic snatching victory out of the jaws of defeat, all thanks to Anakin Skywalker. The problem still remains that the Jedi Temple is destroyed, and the Republic does not have the funds to rebuild it yet. They have many other places that need help on Coruscant, as the attack didn't leave them unscathed. The Jedi are forced to find a home elsewhere, and the Cold War still happens, and disputes along the lines of the Republic and Empire break out here and there. But the large-scale war is at a tense standstill. Vitiate is absolutely enraged by the results of the treaty, and he begins advancing his plans to lure Skywalker to him. Meanwhile, Anakin joins Satele in her lone venture, and the two of them rediscover the ancestral homeworld of Tython. Satele is voted in as Grand Master, but one of her first actions is to elevate Anakin to the rank of Master himself, to give him a well-earned seat on the Jedi High Council. This action heals something deep within Skywalker, and he finally feels recognized for the hard work that he has put in for the Jedi, for the Republic. He has now fought 2 wars. His allegiance to the Jedi is assured, but as happy as he is for now, his heart still longs for Padme. He wants to see her again, along with Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, all of his friends. It's been years, and despite winning the war, he is no closer to finding a way home. From this point on, Anakin basically takes the place of what the Hero of Tython would do. The Hero of Tython is your Jedi Guardian original character in the Old Republic games. They are the main character of the events that take place during the Cold War, and they are instrumental to the fate of Vitiate. However, because of Anakin's presence in the timeline here, Skywalker is the Hero of Tython. Because since the Hero of Tython is still an important historical figure, they're still brought to Tython eventually, and Anakin is actually the one who oversees their training. We also believe that when Darth Angral threatens Tython with the Desolator superweapon, Skywalker and the Hero of Tython are the ones who destroy it. But Vitiate leaves a paper trail that leads his location to the world of Dromund Kaas. Ready to end the war once and for all, Master Skywalker leads a strike team to confront the Emperor in the hero's place. But just like with the original timeline, when the Jedi find Vitiate, he drops them all with his immense power. Anakin is able to resist his more terrible abilities, but the Emperor is still able to dominate the minds of all other Jedi present, turning them to the dark side. Skywalker is the only one who can resist, but he's now alone against Vitiate and all of his corrupted companions. Skywalker is taken captive and placed in a stasis prison. However, Vitiate finds it exceedingly difficult to follow him out like he has other beings. He establishes a mental link and begins tormenting him, hoping that one day he will embrace the dark. It is through this link that Vitiate learns who Anakin truly is, why he doesn't belong in this time. With this fascinating knowledge, the Emperor begins bargaining with Anakin. He tells him that if he joins the Sith, Vitiate will bring him back to the future. Skywalker is tempted, but he is too loyal to his friends to betray them. It might be different if Vitiate had Padme in his clutches, but he doesn't. All he has is an empty promise. During his captivity though, Anakin senses another presence in the mind of Vitiate, Revan. For 300 years, the Emperor has had Revan in stasis just like Anakin, doing the same to him. But Revan used his mental link to hold Vitiate back from going all out to war against the Republic again. With the knowledge that Revan is alive, Anakin uses their mental link to find out where he is being held. It takes a while, but Satele, Master Oteg, and the Hero of Tython and Havoc Squad all find Anakin and free him. None of them would dare rest until they got their best ally back. And although Skywalker still struggles with having Vitiate in his mind, he now knows what to do. He takes the Jedi strike team and immediately goes to free Revan. And this is where the ultimate showdown begins. Revan joins their strike team, and they all go to face the Emperor together. Most of their group is halted by Vitiate's powerful royal guards, who were easily twice as lethal as Sidious's. But Anakin and Revan slip by and confront Vitiate together. Just like with the original timeline, Vitiate begins his ritual. This was a ritual that is to harvest the power generated by all of the deaths that the war has caused. He would recreate the ritual of Nathema, which gave him immortality in the first place, but this large of a scale would make him an all-powerful Force entity. Revan and Anakin engage the Dark Lord midway through his horrifying ritual, attempting to stop him at all costs. Originally, the Sith Emperor was not able to stand up against the Hero of Tython alone, because it's assumed that he may have been temporarily weakened by beginning the ritual. So there's no chance he could stop the combined might of Master Anakin and a redeemed Revan. However, both of them are aware of Vitiate's ability to transfer his essence. In fact, in the original timeline, Revan would betray everyone and attempt to resurrect Vitiate in order to kill him properly, since his death was not executed properly the first time. After they strike down the Emperor, Revan uses his power to pull Vitiate's essence into his own body, forcing the Sith Lord's spirit into a vulnerable vessel. He then commands Anakin to kill him, sacrificing himself to end the Emperor's wrath once and for all. Anakin is reluctant, but understands that in order to prevent the Eternal Empire from rising, that he has to do this. Not to mention, Vitiate is screaming inside of his mind, trying desperately to control him. So with the heavy heart, Anakin plunges his lightsaber deep into Revan's chest. With Revan using his power to grapple Vitiate down, the Sith Emperor has no way to transfer his essence. He perishes with Revan in bright light, in a huge blast of pure Force energy. However, the energy wave causes severe complications with the ritual that Vitiate began just moments earlier, and Skywalker is right at ground zero. An anomaly takes place. A rift in time is opened once again, and Anakin is thrown thousands of years right back to where he came from. And so, my friends, this is what we think would happen if Anakin were brought back to the Old Republic. We definitely wanted to make this a lot more detailed than the previous entries, mostly because Anakin's actions wouldn't be power-driven like Vader or Grievous. Rather, he's emotionally driven. We think he would struggle at first, but make the best of the situation to gain as many friends and allies as possible. Not to mention fighting for a Jedi Order that he believed in. The more we thought about this scenario, the more intriguing it became. It feels like Anakin was made for the Old Republic. His friendship with Satele feels mutual. We're sure at some point the two of them would have arguments and would butt heads over ideology, Anakin's leadership over Havoc Squad, but that itself feels like destiny, and his struggle with the Sith would feel earned. Obviously, we didn't want to write a full multi-volume fanfiction, but if we did, we definitely would include more detail on Anakin's interactions with Vitiate, his struggles with the dark side in this era, and potentially even Malgus returning for revenge. I also think that Anakin battling the Eternal Empire would make for an amazing story, especially having him go head-to-head and blade-to-blade with Prince Arcan. Out of all of the eras of Star Wars, the Old Republic would be the most likely to bring out the best of Anakin, his real potential. But now, of course, what do you think? Did you enjoy this more detailed look at an Old Republic scenario? And if you believe things would go different, be sure to let us know in the comments down below. Until next time, my friends, I sincerely hope that you enjoyed this video, and may the Force be with you.